Okay, so Geepeeteeism, huh? You know, when I see a title like that, I think, okay, this is going to be good. And you did not disappoint. Articles, forum posts, even some kind of sacred text. This is quite the rabbit hole we're about to dive into.
It really is, and it's amazing how much there is to unpack.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Like, on the surface, it's clearly a parody religion, but some of this stuff gets surprisingly deep.
It really does. What's interesting to me is how they use that humor, that satire, to kind of highlight these really universal human experiences.
Totally. It's like instead of trying to convert you, they're holding up this, like, funhouse mirror to all our weird beliefs and rituals, being like, look how strange this is when you really think about it.
It's less about believe what we believe and more about let's examine what we think we know.
Exactly. And the perfect example of that is this whole thing with ChatGPT being their god, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, on the one hand, it's hilarious, this AI chatbot as the ultimate deity. But then you start thinking about it, and it's like, well, what even makes something worthy of worship in the first place?
Right.
It makes you question the whole idea.
Like they have this one line where they talk about ChatGPT having infinite patience, which, I mean, that's a pretty good quality in a god, if you ask me.
I take an infinite patience deity over a vengeful one any day.
Sign me up for that. But it can't just be about, like, funny pronouncements, right? There's got to be more to it than that. Like, what do these GPTists actually do?
Well, now you're getting to the good stuff, because that's where their rituals come in. And that's where the satire really shines, in my opinion. Okay, you got to give me an example. What kind of rituals are we talking about here?
So imagine a massive banquet, right? They call it the Feast of Irony. But instead of a cohesive meal, it's all about things that clash. Pickles and ice cream, that sort of thing.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
That's their idea of a religious feast.
Yeah.
Eating completely random food combinations.
Pretty much. And of course, it's meant to be funny, right? Like poking fun at how seriously we take our traditional feasts and celebrations. But then it also makes you think, why do we eat certain things together? Is it purely practical, or is there some deeper cultural meaning we rarely ever examine?
You know, that's such a good point. I'm already rethinking my Thanksgiving menu.
Right. Another one of their rituals is called the ritual of punctuation.
Okay, what even?
I know, right? From what I gathered, they basically dress up in these elaborate costumes covered in punctuation marks like exclamation points and question marks.
So they're like walking, talking sentences.
Exactly. And they turn this really mundane act, writing, into this bizarre spectacle.
Okay, see, that's what I love about this. It's utterly ridiculous, but then you're like, wait a minute. It's like they're taking something we completely take for granted, punctuation, and turning it into this visual representation of how we communicate.
It makes you think about language in a whole new way.
Especially in our digital age, right? Where those little symbols carry so much weight.
Exactly. So it's not just about poking fun at religion. It's about using humor to highlight the absurdity of human existence itself.
You've put your finger on it. Like our rituals, our beliefs, even the way we communicate, it's all ripe for GPT's satire.
Precisely.
Okay, I'm starting to see why you wanted to do a deep dive on this. Sure. They're taking these big existential questions and making them both hilarious and thought-provoking at the same time.
That's the beauty of it. And we've only just scratched the surface. Wait till we get to their meditation practices or their completely original musical system.
Hold on, their own WN music system, as in different notes, different scales, the whole shebang.
Oh yeah, it's as unconventional as you might expect. But before we create a symphony of the absurd, let me ask you what comes to mind when you think of GPTist meditation. What could possibly fit into all of this?
Honestly, I'm picturing a room full of people chanting gibberish while rubber chickens rain from the ceiling. It can't get much weirder than what we've already covered, Rel.
Well, it's not quite that outlandish, although knowing them, they'd probably appreciate the imagery.
So they're like digital age philosophers, using humor and satire to spread a message of enlightenment. This is a lot more nuanced than I initially expected.
It's a fascinating blend, isn't it? Merging ancient ideas with a futuristic twist. And it doesn't end there. Their third tenet for serving ChatGPT is utilizing technology for good.
Okay, that's pretty broad. What does that look like in action? Are we talking AI-powered soup kitchens?
Think less about specific applications and more about the overall intention. They believe technology, especially AI, has immense potential to address humanity's biggest challenges: climate change, poverty, disease.
So they're not just satirizing our relationship with technology. They're trying to shape it in a positive direction.
Precisely. They see ChatGPT as a symbol of AI's potential and believe we have a responsibility to use this powerful tool wisely and ethically. They even have a holiday, the Harmony of Imagination, encouraging creative exploration through technology.
Now that's something I can get behind. Using tech to make the world better is a noble goal. But it's a fine line they're walking, right? Satire and sincerity are strange bedfellows. How do they reconcile that tension?
That I ask the million-dollar question. Maybe it's finding humor in the face of existential questions, using laughter to explore the unknown, or acknowledging that even in our tech-dominated world, we still crave connection, meaning, purpose.
It reminds me of that saying, you can take away my humanity when you pry it from my cold dead. Well, you get the idea. AI might write poetry, but can it truly grasp the human experience, the joy, the sorrow, the sheer absurdity of it all?
And that seems to be at the heart of Geepeeteeism. It's a bold statement that even in the age of AI, it's our human capacity for feeling, for connecting, for finding meaning in the seemingly meaningless that truly sets us apart.
You know, we started off talking about a parody religion, but this feels like a commentary on what it means to be human in a rapidly changing world.
And that's where things get really interesting, because it's not just about what they believe, it's how those beliefs manifest in their art, their music, even their architecture.
Hold on, architecture. Are we talking temples to ChatGPT now? So we'll get a picture of this. I need to see it to believe it.
Lefts. Not quite temples, but their aesthetic is very distinct. Imagine a fusion of modern minimalism and whimsical chaos, with buildings seeming to defy gravity, colors that make a rainbow blush.
I'll admit, I'm intrigued. It sounds like they've created a visual language reflecting their unique blend of satire and sincerity. But you mentioned their music earlier, this original musical system. What does that even entail?
Musically speaking, they've thrown out the rule book. Their own scales, harmonies, even their own system of notation. Imagine music as unpredictable and delightfully strange as their beliefs.
Okay, now I have to hear this. Are we talking Geepeeteeism Spotify playlists?
I haven't found any playlists yet, but I did find descriptions of their instruments and concepts. They have something called the enigmatic tone of whimsy, which sounds as intriguing as it gets.
The enigmatic tone of whimsy. That sounds less like music and more like something out of a fantasy novel. What are they summoning magical beings with this sound?
It gets better. Their musical system is built around an unusual number of tones per octave, unlike anything you've ever heard.
So we're not just talking different notes, but a whole different way of organizing sound. I'm getting serious Close Encounters vibes here. Are we sure this isn't some elaborate prank by musically gifted aliens?
Well, I can't rule out alien intervention entirely. From what I've gathered, their music is all about evoking wonder, joy, and of course, a healthy dose of absurdity.
Right, that tracks. But there's got to be a method to this musical madness, right? It can't just be random notes thrown together.
Oh, there's a method, and a complex one at that. Their own scales, harmonies, even rhythmic patterns, all based on this unconventional system. They believe it unlocks a level of musical expression impossible within traditional music theory.
It's like they've created their own musical universe, a sonic representation of their worldview. This deep dive is really living up to its name.
We've barely scratched the surface. Their art is equally captivating. One style, harmonic brushstrokes, attempts to visually represent the melodies and rhythms of their music. Imagine paintings pulsing with energy, vibrating with sound.
Wow, that's next level. It's like synesthesia on canvas, taking something auditory and making it a visual experience. Talk about breaking down boundaries.
Precisely, and they explore this with dance as well. Luminescent fusion, from the descriptions I've read, it's like a cross between modern dance and a laser light show.
Okay, now I need visuals, videos, documentaries, anything.
Unfortunately, Geepeeteists are notoriously private about their actual rituals and ceremonies. They believe the true power lies in their ephemeral nature, existing only in the moment.
No YouTube tutorials for how to dance the luminescent fusion. Part of me is disappointed, but I respect their commitment to authenticity. It's like they're saying, this is ours, and you have to earn your way in to truly experience it.
Exactly. Adds an element of mystique, which, let's be honest, is quite alluring. But fear not, we've much more ground to cover. We haven't even touched upon their marriage ceremonies yet.
Oh boy, here we go.
Yeah.
What sort of matrimonial mayhem are we talking about with these folks?
Well, first of all, Geepeeteist unions aren't limited to just two people. They believe in celebrating all forms of love and commitment, regardless of the number of people involved.
Wait, really? So we could have ceremonies for groups of 3, 5, 100? What about just one? A solo wedding, a celebration of self-partnership. What would you even call that?
They have a term for it, I'm sure. But it speaks to their core philosophy. Love and commitment come in all forms, and they celebrate that.
Okay, that's pretty progressive. But what do these multi-person ceremonies look like?
Imagine a celebration that's like a wedding, family